Okay, we're official. All right. Okay, so the upside of positional leadership, which is level 1, and the downside of that. All right, so we're going to talk about that today. And who remembers what level 1 leadership is? Why is it called positional leadership?
I think it might be called positional leadership because if you're new for level 1, you probably won't know what to do, and they might put you in a position which you probably won't be comfortable with, or you might be comfortable with. Like if you, when an instructor tells you to instruct a class for a while, you won't know what to do because you'll be new.
Okay, so it's when it is, and Ayush, you want to add to that?
I was just gonna say it's basically a position of leadership that you're being put in, and yeah, kind of like what she said, but not in much else.
Okay. So both of you are right. It's when somebody says, hey, I want you to be the leader of this. You know, whether it's just for a short time or whether it's for a long time, somebody puts you in that position to be the leader. It's not like people voted you in to be the leader, or you know, you took a job as the leader. It's that situation where somebody says, okay, like you mentioned class, all right, I want you to go ahead and warm up the class. So that puts you in the position of being a leader, and that's the level 1, okay? All right, so let's go through one of the things that on page 42, if you do have your book, there in that first paragraph, Dr. Maxwell talks about being put as the leader, the captain of the basketball team. And he says, it did not guarantee that the players would follow me. He said, earning that would be my responsibility. So if you're put level 1, you're put up to warm up the class, you know, that doesn't mean that automatically everybody's gonna want to do what you say. You know, you kind of have to, you know, earn that respect. And then they want to come back to your next class and they realize you're a good leader and they want to continue following you. So you have to, just because you're in the position of leadership doesn't mean that the people following you are all on board with you being the leader. You know, that takes time to earn. So that was kind of a good point. And then he also, in subheading 3 on the next page, where he says, a leadership position is an invitation to grow as a leader, which I think is a really good point. It doesn't mean that you have to have it all figured out and all learned, but it's a time where somebody says, hey, you're showing some leadership qualities, and so I'm going to put you in charge of this group, and that is an invitation for you to grow as a leader. Not just to be like, I've arrived, I'm the leader, everybody do what I say, but it's a chance to say, okay, I have an opportunity here to be a leader. What kind of leader do I want to be? And that's one of the things that
It's a gradual goal.
yeah, it's not instant, and you have to learn as you go. And when you're working with people are very, very different from each other and from you, so you kind of have to learn how each person works to be a leader to that person. All right, so good point. And I mentioned that on the next page, 44, where he says in the second paragraph, the leaders who do the greatest harm to an organization are the ones who think they have arrived. You know, so once you get to a point where you think you know it all, that's when you're gonna mess things up the most. You know, so, and it's important to kind of keep that perspective, because it can be scary to be in charge of something. Sometimes it can be a lot of fun to be in charge of something, you know, but either way you have to be careful and take good care of the folks in your charge. Okay, all right, so let's take a second here. On page 47, it says, as you reflect on your values, I believe you should settle what you believe in 3 key areas. So Dr. Maxwell talks about ethical values, relational values, and success values. So you have to, as a leader, sometimes the leadership is thrust upon you and you didn't have a chance to prepare. But if you already have in your mind, I'm going to be this kind of leader when that opportunity arises, you probably will do a really good job. All right. So ethical values, Ayush, you want to talk about that? What that means, ethical values?
Well, kind of what morals you have and what you try to kind of live by, I guess, and how you want to do something.
Yeah, and if you have those morals and those strong values, and then as a leader you follow those, it's going to be hard to make a mistake if you're following those good moral, ethical values. What would be an example of a good ethical value?
Well, like treat others the way you want to be treated.
Okay.
You kind of live by that, and if you don't want to be hurt or anything bad happen to you, then you don't try to harm anybody else.
Okay. Excellent. Claire, you raised your hand. Did you have something to add?
Always ask other people like if they have any questions or anything, and always exhibit integrity.
Okay, so keeping your integrity, and I like what you said about asking other people, so involving everybody, not just doing all the telling them what to do, but involving other people in the process. All right. Okay, and relational values. Natalie, I'll let you give us your thoughts on that.
For relational values, I think you should be respectful to them and get to know them better so you can be friends. You can probably like help teach them stuff that they don't know, and they can help teach you stuff that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can like have like a bond and trust them, they'll trust you.
Yeah, I think I couldn't say that any better myself. All right, so very good. Very good. Building that bond of trust. And I think coming to a leadership role with an open mind that what you said, you can learn something from others is very, very important. You know, everybody has different experiences we can share. And Claire, why don't you take success values for us?
Yeah, success, for example, what goes on with spending your life on helping others learn, teaching, being a good influence, and helping others get involved instead of doing everything yourself, etc.
Okay, so you said helping others quite a bit there. So that for you is successful when you've helped others, you know, and that's worth you spending your time on. And that's why you're here today, so we can all talk about how can we be better leaders and better at helping others. Okay, so very good. All right, I'm going to share my screen now and go to the PowerPoint presentation that we've been going through. Talked about principle and practice, just a review. A principle is like a law, and the practice is how you make it happen. And then just in a little bit, we've talked about ethics and all. When you have those strong ethics and, you know, sticking to them, like, you know, stand on them like a rock. And we are focusing on level 1 today, the very beginning. And we also talked about how you can be at different levels of leadership in different groups, you know, so you might be a level 1 in one group and a level 5 in another, and it's always fluid and it's always changing. And you can even change, you could be a level 4 in a group, and then next week you're a level 2 because somebody else is moving up, you know, so it's fluid. Doesn't mean good or bad, it's just sometimes it's fluid. Let's just get, so we talked a little bit last time about one of the toughest things is seeing your shortcomings as a leader, all right? But one of the most productive things is seeing your shortcomings, as a leader, because when you know where your weaknesses are, that's how you can improve them. All right. And where are we starting? Well, today, no matter where you are in different leadership roles, let's focus on level 1, because even if you're at a higher level than that, that means somebody underneath you is at a level 1, and you need to learn how to help them grow to level 2. All right, so some upsides. So when you are given the responsibility to be a leader, we've already talked about staying ethical and remembering that you have to earn others' respect. Just because you put on the black belt doesn't, it comes with some respect, but in terms of being the leader or the teacher, you have to earn that from others. All right. So first things first, what leadership practices do I want to put into place? What kind of leader do I want to be? What example will I set? How will I treat people? What should I expect from my team? Sometimes we have high expectations. Sometimes our expectations are too low. So you just got to kind of adjust that and think about that as you're working with people. Maybe you're helping an 8-year-old white belt learn how to do their first moves. What are your expectations? Do you expect them to know it as good as you do? Probably not, right? Okay, do you expect them to listen to you and try their best? Yeah, we do expect that, okay? And then where am I a leader? Where do I lead others? Where in my life am I a leader? So one of the things that a long time ago, as I was looking at, what kind of leader do I want to be, there's a lot of different leaderships. There's dictators, where you do what I say or else, okay? There's kind of team leaders, where we all get together and we work evenly on trying to get the job done. One of the things that I chose because I'm a martial arts instructor was there is a style of leadership called coaching. And like a coach that you would think on a sports team, but you can have a coach in anything. It doesn't have to be athletics. You can coach people like we're doing right now in leadership. And coaching is usually done by somebody who has experience, and they're helping you learn how to do the same thing. And they're helping you to keep from making the same mistakes that maybe they did when they were just starting out. Okay, so when I have a choice of how to act as a leader, I always try to follow that coaching method. All right. So what kind of let's answer the last question. Each one of you can answer that. Where do you lead others? Anybody can go first. Just unmute yourself.
I think I might lead others to a good place where the same color belt that they are, other people have the same moves that they know, and they can do their form and know the exact same moves and names in the form. So when someone's says the name of the form, they'll know the name of the move. They know what kind of move to do.
Okay. All right. So helping here. You're even helping people your same level, get the moves down sharp too. You get to spend a lot of time training, so you're able to share that with others. Anybody else? Okay.
Before I took online martial arts classes, I used to help classes, but now I don't because I don't go there anymore.
Well, that's an interesting point, Ayush, because you will come back, right? And you're studying your leadership along with us, so when you do come back, you'll be able to step right back into that role. But at your level, I think even on Zoom, the instructors could say, have you demonstrate or answer questions for somebody, different things like that. So, that brings up a good point, and I think an area I haven't really explored very much is students on Zoom practicing their leadership skills in class. So that actually gives me something to think about and see how I can create that for you. It's a good point.
I once, before the COVID, I once gave an adult who was new to Taekwondo some bow staff lessons.
Okay. Well, I'm sure they miss you. Because we
And,
always need people
I also,
to help.
during Zoom classes, since I'm transitioning to Zoom, I often, because, yeah, but the thing is, when my bell comes undone, I often try to demonstrate a good example by turning away from the screen. Then when I readjust my belt,
Mm-hmm.
because I did that in Taekwondo, turn away from the flags, and so I decided to keep that up, turning away from the screen.
That's great, and I think leading by example is one of the things that we'll talk about here in a minute, and that's certainly doing that. All right, some downside questions, okay? It can feel, and I'm talking to a pretty nice, awesome group right here, so I don't know that this would happen, but sometimes it can feel like, oh, I'm the leader, and you get a little puffed up and a little prideful, and there is a good feeling, like if I say, Natalie, I want you to warm up the class for me, I'll be back in 10 minutes, oh, cool, I'm in charge, everybody do 100 push-ups, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so there's nothing wrong with being excited about that position, but what we want to make sure is that we don't let it go to our head too much, all right? What's that saying about falling hard? Pride. The more prideful you get, the harder it is when you fall. All right, so when you are leading, do you focus on negative words such as won't, problems, can't, and liability? So that would be like, if you're helping in class, this person won't listen to me, or I can't get this person to do what I asked them to do. Those are some negative things, where we're putting it on, if we're the leader and we can't get them to do it and they won't do what you say, what we're focusing on is the person that we're leading and not on what kind of leader we are. So if you find yourself saying those negative words, or, I've got a problem, there's too many people to lead. Or, kind of thinking about the negative side of it, when you have those thoughts, you need to stop yourself and say, okay, they're not doing what I asked them to do, I must not be asking them to do it the right way. How many different kinds of people are there in the world? Well, we can't really answer that question, right? Okay. All right, we can categorize them, but even in that, there's 5 types of people, but even in that, there's a bunch of types inside there. So my thought is if the student or the person that you're leading can't understand you or isn't following you, then you're not explaining it to them in a way that they can understand. So instead of they won't or I can't, you want to think about how can I inspire them to do the right thing? Or how can I explain this better? And you start turning it around and thinking of positive things, and that's how you can grow into that leadership. All right, we have a couple of words here of different type of people that might be in a group that you're leading. We have the clock watcher. Anybody want to explain the clock watcher? Natalie?
I think it's someone that watches the clock and see if the time runs out, or how much time they have left, or like how long they did it for.
Yeah, it's kind of like if they're in class, but they're always going, when's class over? How much more time do we have? They're not really involved. And those are people that might be in your group. And you can use negative words going, well, they're not really into it, or they don't really care about the class. Well, we want to be better leaders in that, oh, they're watching the clock. Do they need to get somewhere? Might they be having to leave early? Have I asked them that instead of getting upset with them? Or am I boring them, and I need to maybe do something a little bit more exciting to help them stay engaged. All right, so what is a just enougher? If you need some help, that's in your book, page 61.
A just enougher is someone who says I've had enough. I'm fine where I am. I don't need any more.
Well, that's very good. Yeah, that's they don't want to do anything extra. They're just going to do just enough, the bare minimum, to get through. You know, and sometimes that's all we can do, but I don't think that's a just enougher. You know, sometimes, you know, maybe in order to pass the class, you have to get 85%. All right? And maybe you do this is really hard, and you do everything you can to get that 85%. Well, that's not the same as just enougher. Maybe you got enough to pass, but you gave it all that you had. And let's say the class is real easy for you, and you know, well, all I have to get is an 85 to pass, even though if you put in a little effort, you could get 100, but you just go the easy route and get the 85. That would be like a just enougher. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever had experiences like that?
Yes.
I think we all have. We're all probably a little guilty of being a just enougher at some point. The trick is to recognize it and know that it's not really the best way for us to go. We always want to put in our best effort. All right, and then we have the mentally absent. Ayush, I think you're up.
It's just somebody who's basically their body is there, but their mind is somewhere else.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The person who, when you look at them and say, "What do you think?" and they go, "Huh? You asked me a question?" Yeah. So what we want to do in level 1 leadership, the reason we bring this up is because our job as a leader, even at level 1, is to take the clock watchers, the just enoughers, and the mentally absent, and do what we can to help raise them up. And if we can do that, if we can take those people and make them better, then we are becoming better leaders, and that's how we can move to level 2. All right, so lastly, what is important in a leader? And this study was in your book, and it's one study, so, you know, it's not, just one study doesn't make it truth. Okay, so if you want to look into this further, you can look up other studies on leadership. But I do trust John Maxwell, read a lot of his stuff and seen him speak a few times, so I don't think that he would put it in his book if he didn't think it was a good study. All right. But so one research study, and it shows that the highest thing that people are most interested in is in their leader is that their leader leads by example. So when you're thinking about how to be a good leader, it's not about telling others what to do always. It's about showing them what to do and showing them how to do it. Okay? What I found really interesting is out of 100%, only 26% in this study, even though it's the highest, it's still only 26%. It's not like most people chose it, only 26%. So it's still got the highest, and everything else under there was about even, which says to me that there's not one thing that makes somebody the best leader. It's all these things. Because if all of the things are pretty even, that means people had a hard time making a choice about what was the most important. So when you're looking at this study, I think to look at it and look at it and see that, you know, intelligence and competence, 13% thought that was most important. And 19% thought strong ethics and morals. That's not a big difference in the percentages, you know. And knowledge and fairness, kind of the same thing. So even though lead by example was the highest scoring in this study, it wasn't super high. And all the others were pretty even. Okay? So when you think about what is the most important thing in a leader, I think all of these words on here, all of these concepts. You know, so when you're looking at being a leader, it's not just, well, I'm the smartest person in the room. I have the highest grade, so I should be the leader. Well, according to what people want in a leader, it's not really the most important. So you got to think about all that. Anybody have any thoughts on that study? Did it surprise you?
Yes.
Yeah, what part surprised you?
I think probably the 10% one, recognition of followers, because I'm pretty sure like the leader should like recognize the followers, see if they're doing it right, and not just like someone like gets it wrong, they're like, okay, everyone did it right, and move on.
Okay. So you feel like the leader should be the recognition of the followers, that's like giving recognition to the people in your group that they did it right. You're surprised that not many people thought that that was the most important.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it is
I'm
nice to.
surprised-
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm surprised that fairness is below knowledge. Because if you're gonna lead by example, then you probably have the knowledge that you're doing it right. And you need to be fair or else nobody's gonna care about you. Or
That is surprising. That's a good point, because you've got lead by example, strong ethics and morals. You would think that fairness would be over that, because it's really hard
or
to.
at least fairness should be in the ethics and morals.
Up there even with that. Yeah, I think that somebody, you know, when you look at this, because those two are so close together in the percentages, you could see people kind of in their mind weighing, if I've got to put this in order, which one's more important to me, fairness or knowledge? And it looks kind of split. But yeah, I think that is surprising also. Good point. Claire, any last thoughts?
Not really.
Okay. All right. Well, that takes us through the upsides and downsides of level 1 positional leadership. So we're going to finish the next portion that I want you to read is all the way. We're going to finish level 1 next time, and we'll go all the way to level 2. So go all the way to that one for the next time that we get together. We'll finish level 1 and we'll start talking about level 2. In the meantime, think about where you lead and grade yourself as a level 1, even if you're higher. Say, how am I doing as a level 1? You know, am I using negative words too much? Am I leading by example? You know, am I making sure I have enough knowledge? Those things on there, and you can kind of check yourself out. And remember, you don't have to be a leader of a group. You can be a leader in your family, you know, by the things that you do and the example that you set, no matter what your age. All right? All right, anybody have anything else to add? Looks like we're just about out of time.
I'm good at least.
Okay. All right, well, it was really good seeing everybody and good talking to you, and thank you so much for attending, because you guys add a lot to the discussion, and I always learn something too. So thank you very much. All right, guys.